25 pounds. That's how much a finished Amish winter quilt weighs. Not fabric weight, pure warmth engineering. How do they make these thermal monsters? I spent 6 months watching. What I saw was brutal, beautiful, and absolutely incredible. Today, you're seeing the full process. 10 steps, 6 months, 1 quilt. Let's go. Step 1. Acquiring raw wool. The foundation. Forget buying batting at a craft store. Amish women start with raw sheep wool, straight from shearing. The wool is dirty, filled with lanolin, dirt, vegetation. It stinks, it's greasy, it's matted. Most modern quilters would reject it. Amish women know this is exactly what they need. Why raw wool? The lanolin. That natural oil makes wool water-resistant and durable. Commercial batting has it stripped out. They buy wool in spring after shearing, 20 to 30 pounds for 1 winter quilt. Then the real work begins. Step 2. Washing and preparing wool. Weeks of labor. Raw wool must be cleaned, but not with machines, by hand, in batches. They fill large tubs with lukewarm water and mild soap. They gently agitate the wool, they rinse, repeat again. This takes days, literally days of washing, rinsing, squeezing, hanging to dry. I watched an Amish woman spend an entire week just washing wool for 1 quilt. Her hands were raw from the work. She never complained. Once clean, the wool must dry completely, hung outdoors in shade. This takes another week, depending on weather. Rushing the step ruins everything. Damp wool molds. Moldy batting is worthless. Step 3. Carding the wool. The meditation phase. Now comes the most time-consuming part. Carding. Hand cards are rectangular paddles covered in fine wire teeth. You place wool on one card, brush it with the other, pulling fibers straight and aligning them. This creates fluffy, aligned wool ready for batting. But it's slow, incredibly slow. 1 pound of wool takes about 4 hours to card properly. A winter quilt needs 20 to 30 pounds. Do the math. That's 80 to 120 hours of carding. Just carding. I tried it for 15 minutes. My arms were burning. Amish women do this for hours daily for weeks. But here's what I learned. The carding is meditative. The repetitive motion, the gradual transformation of matted wool into fluffy clouds. It's therapeutic. This is when I pray, one woman told me. This is when I think about who will use this quilt. I pray for them with every stroke. Step 4. Creating batting layers. Strategic engineering. Carded wool must be layered, not randomly, strategically. They create sheets of wool, spreading it evenly on large tables. Each layer is about 1 inch thick when laid out. But here's the genius. They alternate fiber direction. First layer horizontal, second layer vertical, third layer diagonal. Why? This creates a matrix that prevents shifting and maximizes air trapping. The layers interlock. For a heavy winter quilt, they create 5 to 7 layers, each layer taking hours to prepare and position perfectly. The batting alone weighs 15 to 20 pounds before compression. This is why the quilts are so heavy. Step 6. Loading the quilting frame. Community event. Once top, batting layers, and backing are ready, they go on the quilting frame. This is a major event. The frame is massive, sometimes 12 feet long. It takes multiple women to set up properly. First, the backing fabric is stretched and secured. Then, batting layers are carefully placed, smoothing each one. Finally, the decorative top. Everything must be perfectly smooth. No wrinkles, no bunching, perfect tension. This takes hours, but it's crucial. Poor setup means a lumpy quilt. Often, this is when the quilting bee is called. Multiple women gather to help with the stitching phase. Step 7. The quilting stitch, where mastery shows. Now the real test. Quilting through all those layers. The needle must pierce through the decorative top, 5 to 7 layers of wool batting and backing fabric. Every stitch. The thickness is intense. The resistance is enormous. It takes serious finger strength. But the stitches must be tiny, 10 to 12 stitches per inch, perfectly even, perfectly straight. This is where decades of practice show. Young women struggle. Their stitches are larger, less consistent. Grandmother stitches are like machine precision, tiny, even, perfect. I watched an 80-year-old woman stitch for hours. Her fingers moved like machines, never slowing, never wavering. "How do you do it?" I asked. She held up her hands. The fingers were garled, calloused, incredibly strong. 60 years of practice. Your hands become tools.
Step 8. The stitching pattern, strategic warmth zones. The stitching pattern isn't decorative, it's functional. They stitch in grids, lines spaced 2 to 3 inches apart. This creates quilted pockets that trap warm air. But here's the detail I missed at first. The spacing varies by body zone. The center section over torso has slightly closer stitching. Why? Your core generates more heat. It needs less insulation help. The edges over arms and legs have wider spacing. These areas need maximum insulation. This biomechanical understanding comes from centuries of cold weather experience. Every adjustment has a purpose. Step 9. Binding the edges, the final seal. Once quilting is complete, the edges must be bound. This seals everything together. They cut binding strips on the bias, the diagonal of the fabric. This allows the binding to curve around corners smoothly. The binding is sewn on by hand, tiny, invisible stitches. Both front and back must be perfect. This takes another 8 to 10 hours. Every stitch must be strong. The binding takes the most abuse over decades of use. I watched a woman bind edges while talking with her daughter. Her hands never stopped, never looked down. Pure muscle memory. Step 10. The final inspection and blessing. Before a quilt leaves the frame, it's inspected thoroughly. Every stitch is checked. Any loose threads are secured, any imperfections are noted. But then comes the part that moved me most, the blessing. The woman who made it places her hands on the quilt. She prays. She prays for warmth, for protection, for the person who will use it. Sometimes other women join, multiple hands on the quilt, multiple prayers. "I made this with my hands," one grandmother told me, "but I pray God makes it what they need, a covering, a comfort, a reminder they're cared for." That's when I realized these aren't just quilts. They're prayers made tangible, love made visible, care made warm. The time investment. Let me break down the hours. Washing wool, 40 hours. Carding, 100 hours. Piecing the top, 80 hours. Quilting, 200 hours. Total, over 400 hours of labor for one quilt. At minimum wage, that's $6,000 worth of labor. But Amish women charge $800 to $1,500. Why so cheap? Because it's not about money. It's about purpose, about craft, about love. Why machines can't replicate this? Modern quilts are machine-pieced, machine-quilted, using synthetic batting. They can be made in a day, but they don't last. The batting compresses, the stitching fails, they're cold. Hand quilting with wool batting creates something machines cannot. The irregular tension of hand stitching actually creates better air pockets. The wool compressed by human hands springs back better than machine-compressed batting. Science is now confirming what Amish women knew for centuries. Handmade is superior for warmth and durability. The apprenticeship system. How do they learn this? By doing it, starting young. An 8-year-old helps card wool. A 10-year-old pieces simple blocks. A 12-year-old learns to quilt under supervision. By 16, she can make a complete quilt. By 25, she's a master. This knowledge transfer has happened for generations, mother to daughter, grandmother to granddaughter. No quilting classes, no YouTube tutorials, just hands working together. Techniques shown, practiced, perfected. The modern loss. Most modern women couldn't make an Amish winter quilt. Not because they lack intelligence, because they lack training, time, and commitment. We've traded mastery for convenience, handmade for mass-produced, heirloom for disposable. The Amish proved that some things are worth the time, worth the effort, worth the sacrifice. So there it is, how Amish women make heavy winter quilts. 6 months, 400 hours, hands that become tools, hearts that pour love into every stitch. Next time you see an Amish quilt priced at $1,000, remember what you just learned. It's not expensive. It's underpriced for what it represents. If this gave you respect for traditional crafts and the women who maintain them, hit subscribe. Comment, could you spend 400 hours making one thing? Why or why not? Share this with anyone who quilts or appreciates handmade craftsmanship. They need to see this. Thanks for watching. Create with purpose, and I'll see you in the next one.